He's the GOAT. There really is nothing else to say here, man. If you're surprised that Messi won today, his 8th Ballon d'Or, then I don't know what to tell you. You're not really looking at the landscape of football. You don't really understand how good Lionel Messi is, even at this old age. But once he lifted that trophy with Argentina almost a year ago, and all the accolades that he's accrued, not even just this past season, but like, for example, with Inter Miami winning the Leagues Cup, but his legacy, it was always going to end this way, with him winning a World Cup, and then in that same year, of course, getting the Ballon d'Or. It just makes sense. I really don't see how you could have given a real good shout out for Erling Haaland or any other player, even though they've had an immaculate season and there have been some incredible players come through over the last 12 months. But to win a World Cup, we all know it. Pundits, fans, anybody who loves the sport knows that the World Cup is the most prestigious award that you can get as a professional footballer. And if you are the MVP of that tournament, you actually lift the trophy yourself, and you are also the GOAT, then you're going to lift your 8th Ballon d'Or, brother. And my God, hats off to Lionel Messi, the greatest player that this sport has ever seen.
Yes, Lionel Messi wins the award. In second place is Erling Haaland. Third was Kylian Mbappe. And then fourth was Kevin De Bruyne. My question to follow up your whole statement, everything you just said regarding Messi and this trophy is, do you think it's his last one? Is this where it ends finally? Is this where the run ends? Or is there a way here for him to gain a 9th Ballon d'Or?
God, I feel like no. So obviously, right now, he's actually an MLS player winning this, which is insane. It looks beautiful on that Wikipedia page. You see a nice, beautiful American flag next to the Ballon d'Or winner. But that's the thing, and I think rightly so, the people who end up picking the Ballon d'Or winner obviously are going to give more credit and more weight to players that play in Europe.
100%.
And since Messi all last season was with PSG, and then of course also winning the World Cup, I think that's why it was very easy to give Messi this trophy this time around. Him being in the MLS, I just think it's going to make it very, very difficult for him to win it. Even if he wins the Copa America, for example, with Argentina later this summer, I think it would just add to the legacy, add to the idea that Messi's still killing it outside of Europe. But I'd say the only way he could win another Ballon d'Or would be if he could win another World Cup.
Yeah.
But that's just going to be, it's so far in the future. Man. It's just, I don't even know if you can say that.
Yeah.
So realistically, I do think this is his last one.
Yeah, I think so too. But on the bright side, I think something that I really took away from this whole ceremony and kind of just seeing the passing of the guard here with what many do consider to be Messi's last Ballon d'Or is that I've been keeping an eye on two players, Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland. And we've been keeping an eye on them for a while now, 5-6 years that they've risen to prominence and really stepped up on the biggest stages. And what I love so much about both of these players is that early on they were tagged with that similar like debate that Messi and Ronaldo have had for so many years. People were saying that they're this upcoming generation's version of that. Erling Haaland versus Kylian Mbappe. And by the grace of God, we've been able to see them actually go head-to-head for a good amount of years now consistently. Yeah. Injuries haven't come in the way. Their accomplishments haven't fallen short. They've both really done amazing things in their own respective leagues and within themselves, even at the international level. Mbappe having a hat-trick at the World Cup and Erling Haaland breaking insane goal-scoring records for Norway despite them not being able to qualify for major tournaments. They've done really, really well, and I'm very appreciative of that because that could have easily died out early on. But instead, what we're seeing now is these two massive players lined up right behind Lionel Messi in 2023 with Mbappe finishing in second place and Erling Haaland finishing in third. I think this is actually really notable because looking back at Mbappe's finishes in the Ballon d'Or rankings, he actually hasn't finished that high for how well he's played in these past few years. These are his finishes since 2017. He finished in 7th, then 4th, then 6th, then 9th, and then 6th again. Finally, he breaks into the top 3 and he finishes in 3rd place. And then on the other side for Erling Haaland, he's actually only ever received 3 Ballon d'Or nominations starting in 2021. He was in 11th, then he went up to 10th place the following year, and now he's risen up to 2nd place. Kind of setting the tone, kind of setting the stage for what we're going to see now in the future. With Messi probably not winning it the next following year, Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe are setting the stage for what's going to be another great rivalry.
You know what's really interesting is I looked at these same numbers and I came to a very similar conclusion as you, but then I started to have a little bit of doubt as to what really is going to be that saga of Mbappe versus Erling Haaland. And, I don't know if it's so certain that it's just going to be them two for the next even like 3 years. Short term, I'm even thinking. And the reason why I say that is because when both Messi and Cristiano hit the scene, it was very, very clear that they were the two best players already on the planet by the time they were like 21 years of age, right? And so from then on out, we saw 10 years of pure dominance between them two. And, just even looking at the numbers, the next highest Ballon d'Or winner is 3, right? 3 Ballon d'Ors. Messi has nearly tripled that. Nearly tripled it.
Yeah.
That's the type of consistency that I think comes once every 1,000 years. Like, I'm going to get that exaggerative here. And so I think we've gotten kind of used to the idea that, there's only going to be one guy or, 2 guys, like, for example, the Messi-Ronaldo saga that we saw. And I think, I was also with it that I was like, okay, Mbappe and Haaland are the next 2. They're going to be battling it after it. But looking at kind of the inconsistencies that we see at club level for both Mbappe and Haaland, and by inconsistent, I mean inconsistent in comparison to Lionel Messi, I don't know. I mean, we might see Jude Bellingham win it next year.
Absolutely. He's got to be the front runner right now.
He's got to be the front runner. Yeah. And Mbappe and Haaland might not win it with no Messi and no Ronaldo to be seen. And I think that's where modern football is actually heading, is honestly towards more a bit of parity between the top players. Rather than it just being the pinnacle of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, we might see like 5 or 6 players constantly just kind of rotate in and out of that top 3 for the next like 5 years. Now,
that's how it was in the 2000s. I think for like the first 8 years up until Messi and Ronaldo started going back and forth, I think in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, those first 7-8 years, it was a different winner every single year with, I think, only either Ronaldo or R9 or Zidane repeating perhaps, but only one guy was able to get 2 trophies during that time. The rest was, like you said, pure parity. And that could be what comes our way these next 10 years. I agree. I do see that happening.
And yeah, just to finish the note, I do think the next couple of years in football are just going to be really interesting as far as the debate will be who actually is the best player. Because honestly, man, I mean, for the last 10 years, it's been pretty easy to identify who the best player is, and it was Lionel Messi. I remember I had a fan actually come up to me a couple months ago, and, we talked some footy, as I always love to do, and he asked me, he was like, who is the best player right now in all of world football? The thing is, I only had one answer, and I'm like, look, it is Lionel Messi. I mean, he's proven to be unbeatable. He is inevitable, even at this old age. So I can't really pick another player until he's retired. I really can't. But we're about to see Messi retire maybe over the next couple of years. And now that he's outside of Europe, obviously we'll see less and less of him. So now it's going to get so interesting to see the debate of who is actually the best footballer in the world. And I think that starts now with Messi, in my eyes, lifting his last Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
It's going to be really 100%. Interesting because, dude, it might get really difficult. Yeah. Like, at that point, at that point, you could be asking, like, okay, Haaland 30 goals versus Jude Bellingham's 20, but maybe one won the league, one didn't.
Musiala has something to say,
exactly.
Right? Pedri's healthy for a whole season. Gavi playing great as well. This new crop that's coming up, there's so many talent-filled names that I think might have something to say about the Erling Haaland, Kylian Mbappe debate, as you were trying to mention earlier. Who do you think then? 10 years from now, we fast forward 10 years, the year's 2033. Who's got the most Ballon d'Ors, if any of them have multiple?
Okay. Honestly, my first thought, and I don't know if this is going to be controversial or not, but straight up Jude Bellingham.
Oh, you're going Bells.
Dude, the trajectory that he's on right now, he's making football look way too easy. Way too easy, and he's so young. We've saw it before with Cristiano when he moved to Real Madrid and just went off for the next 10 years. Bellingham is on that exact same trajectory. If he can just literally stay consistent in this way, honestly, he can lose a bit of consistency and still score 6 goals every 12 games. Like, that's an insane rate. If he can just keep that up, Bellingham might be the best midfielder in the world for the next 5-6 years. Easily. And when I look at Mbappe and Haaland, I see them as also incredibly elite. And I think they will win 1 or 2 Ballon d'Ors, but I don't know. I feel like Bellingham just seems a little bit different in my opinion. Although I would say Mbappe maybe could get a couple more Ballon d'Ors if he keeps winning with France.
That's a massive centerpiece in all of this. Bellingham, I think what really helps him is his timing. He has, I think, a 5-year head start on Mbappe. Mbappe's 25 now.
Jeez, yeah,
Bellingham's
that's
20,
insane.
right? And so if Mbappe had the opportunity to compete for the Ballon d'Or in a time where there is no Messi or Ronaldo, starting at 20 years old, maybe he'd have one by now.
That's
but
a good point.
Bellingham is going to have 10 straight years of just having to deal with, Erling Haaland or Kylian Mbappe, who are great players, but not Messi or Ronaldo. For Mbappe, I do think the international factor is always going to help him because he's always going to be part of one of the top 3, probably top 2 international teams in the world consistently. And for Erling Haaland, that could be his crux, bro.
Dude.
Like that could keep him from winning a ton of awards, because what truly can he achieve with Norway that is comparable? Is just qualifying for a major tournament the same contextually as France winning a World Cup? It might be, but the footballing world might not see it that way, because they'll ask for trophies, they'll ask for silverware out of Erling Haaland, and that mixed with his play style, where he's just very direct, an out-and-out striker in charge of scoring goals, whereas Mbappe will always have that element of being an all-around offensive player. And Bellingham, too, is showing now that he can be way more than just a box-to-box midfielder. He can be a goddamn 9 if needed. I think that might end up playing against Erling Haaland a lot in his future. So I can see him having a couple years where he just goes off 50-plus goals in one calendar year and he gets the award. But I could see other years where it gets really close for Haaland and people just end up going for like the international success that one of these players has over him.